Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ben, this is Books with Benghis Khan, and today I have for you my February monthly reading update. And it was a packed reading month, one of the largest reading months by page count of my life, and for a short month, that's pretty good. I think that's because I basically wasn't doing anything else for fun, not watching too much TV, movies, video games, just basically reading in my spare time or doing audios as I went for long walks. And so, yeah, gotten a lot. And it was a kind of mixed month. I had a bunch of kind of middling 3-star reads, then a couple 4s, and then a few 5s that were awesome that I can't wait to chat about. So here we go. I started the month having just come off the 5th season, book 1 of the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I really liked that book 1. I was so pumped for that series to just become a new favorite. And then book 2, the Obelisk Gate, unfortunately just did not go great for me. I think I gave it 2.5 stars. I have a whole review for the series on the channel where I go in depth into my thoughts and in terms of why this middle part of the series wasn't working. But if there's any book that would be more firmly defined as suffering from middle book syndrome, I don't know what that would be. I haven't read it, and so the Obelisk Gate just felt like it really just brought the narrative's momentum to a halt and introduced side characters that didn't feel really fleshed out, and expansion of the magic that I didn't really find interesting, and yeah, so that one, not a great read, and it's a pretty grim series. It's fairly bleak. There's not much lightness or humor in there, and so I was wanting a little change of pace, and I was part of the author A.R. Witham's readathon at the time that was just ending in the beginning of February, and I needed one more book, and I decided to go for the author's self-pub book, The Legend of Blackjack. And this was a good read. It was a delightful read. I gave it 4 stars, and it's not exactly what I'm most interested in. It's kind of a kid's adventure fantasy tale, like a portal fantasy, like a Narnia, like escape to a parallel world. And then it's very episodic, almost like The Hobbit, with all these different mini adventures. And it was engaging most of the time. Like I said, not really my kind of book, but for that, I think it did actually engage me more than I thought it would. And it's very polished. This could easily be a traditionally published book. And it's really, I think, for adults. Like, there's some gritty content in there and social themes that I don't think younger kids would really be appropriate for. And so I really think this is kind of for adults to have a kind of trip down memory lane, nostalgic reading experience for more of like a childlike fantasy tale. And for that, I think it does it wonderfully. And if you're in the mood for that, I don't think you'll find something better that has that more modern feel than this. So yeah, solid read. And I will continue on in that world because Witham's writing really, I think, did sometimes make me feel like a kid again in a really awesome way. And I also really liked his audio narration. So I did it on ebook and audio hybrid and sometimes immersive. And Witham did it himself, and he was great. He had to rent out time just in little chunks on like a single day of the week. I saw him say at a local car dealership, he would go to their radio booth and record in just like hour-long chunks or a couple-hour chunks. And he did it over many weeks and didn't have any expertise or background in this, and I think he did a really great job with the audio. So kudos to A.R. Witham, and yeah, I'll keep up with that series. Okay, then I wanted to finish out the Broken Earth trilogy, and so I went into the 3rd book, which is, what even is that called? The Stone Sky. So that one I did, I don't have the print books of book 2 and 3. I almost did it fully on audio, and I got the ebook from the library and read along with that sometimes. And this one definitely picked up for me from Obelisk Gate. I think I gave this one 4 stars. There was a flashback POV sequence with the Stone Eaters that I really loved. And every time the book went to that POV, I was just really engaged. And the main character of the whole series, Essen, I was also compelled by her character and her journey, so that carried me through a lot towards the end. But the overarching series plot kind of lost my interest, and the magic system kind of didn't hold my interest. And so overall, I was kind of disappointed by how I didn't feel the entire series left that much of an impact, and it was not going to be too memorable for me in the long run. But I did enjoy the 3rd book a good amount and was engaged by a lot of it. So overall, I'm impressed by Jemisin's writing. It's just the more the details of the plotting, and so overall it was an okay series, and I am intrigued to read more of Jemison, and Robin Miles was a fantastic audiobook narrator. So I know that's a very fruitful partnership there that I want to explore more for sure. So then after that, I was kind of in maybe a tiny bit of a reading slump because I hadn't really had that 5-star read in a little while. And that's when I picked up book 8 of The Expanse, Tiamat's Wrath. In terms of single books, this might be up there for one of my favorite science fiction or fantasy reading experiences of my life. Just from page 1 to the final page, utterly engaging. And by this point, I've been spending so long with the characters and the world that it was easy to sink in, and I cared so much about what was happening. This is the penultimate book, second to last one, and sometimes that means it's slower setup. The setup had been done in book 7, and so this book just runs a mile a minute, and that's really the type of read that I think pulls me in the most, when there's so much tension and suspense in the plotting and what's going to happen with the characters throughout the book. It delivered on those promises it had set up so well. Just an absolutely fantastic read. There's a teenager POV that gets introduced in this book that's one of the best written, most compelling teenager characters I've ever read. Just have no complaints about this one. And so yeah, I was just strapped to my seat on the roller coaster ride for the end of this series. And this series ends so strongly. So I was just totally immersed. After that, I read the novella, or kind of short story, Oberon, the second to last one in the Memories Legion collection. Another very solid Expanse short story. And I was just keeping on going with that train to Leviathan Falls, book 9. If you couldn't tell, I gave Tiamat's Wrath 5 stars, and I also gave Leviathan Falls 5 stars. Just a very suitable ending to a long series. And Tiamat's Wrath was so fast-paced, so intense. This one actually is a quieter, slower book that's less about suspenseful plotting and more about quieter character moments. It's just a great change of pace from that last book. And like I said, just a perfect ending to the entire series. The last 5 books of The Expanse are so strong. I recently did a whole kind of series review, non-spoilers, where I summed up my thoughts and the whole kind of journey through the different arcs of the series and got it really in depth into all the positives. But just great immersive world building, a lot of heart with the characters and relationships, really suspenseful plotting too, and a lot of depth to the themes that I don't see talked about too often, really about what kind of vision we have for this near future humanity, and can humanity overcome its petty differences and live in some kind of harmonious situation with all of our competing interests. So yeah, great series, great last book, and a wonderful final coda too, because their last published work in the series chronologically is the short story The Sins of Our Fathers. And so after I finished book 9, I came back to the collection, read The Sins of Our Fathers, and just a fantastic coda, fantastic final chapter to leave us on. And we even get more Expanse content with the Kickstarter that's going on right now. There's going to be a graphic novel collection that's going to fill in some of the stories within the 30-year time jump between books 6 and 7. So I look forward to those. But I don't think there's going to be anything beyond the final chronology point in the end of Leviathan Falls or The Sins of Our Fathers. Just it leaves you with a lot to think about, and just loved this series on the whole. The Expanse, one of my favorite sci-fi series. All right, now coming off one of my favorite series of all time into a author that has not been stellar so far for me, but I'm doing a read-along with my friend Kyle from Read by Kyle, and I went into The Empire's Ruin by Brian Staveley, which is the first book of his newer Ashes of the Unhewn Throne trilogy as a follow-up to the Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne trilogy. And I'd given all 3 of those books 3 stars. They were just kind of middling reads for me. And then the standalone prequel, Skullsworn, I absolutely hated. And so I'd been coming off that with a sour taste. And it's supposed to be a secret kind of buddy read where we have our live chat soon. I'm not sure exactly when yet, but it'll probably happen soon. And we'll discuss what we thought. So I'm going to try not to say anything about it now. But yeah, so tune in shortly to Kyle's channel to see our thoughts. And during that read, that was a read I didn't want to rush through, and Kyle was also taking his time. So I signed up for NetGalley, which I didn't really understand or know how that worked, but I signed up so I could try to get some ARCs, some advanced reader copies, either ebooks or audiobooks, and maybe preview some new releases I was excited about, or maybe not have to spend as much to buy new releases that I was interested in. And so I saw book 2 of Mickey 7 was on there, Antimatter Blues. And I wanted to read that. I was excited for it. And so I started that audiobook, but I realized, oh, you know what? I'd read Mickey 7 last year and loved it, but I want to go back and just to the ending. I kind of forgot a few of the key details of the ending. And so I picked up my copy of Mickey 7, and I was intending to just go towards the ending. And then I opened up into the middle and just got completely sucked back in. This is a short book. It's like 300 pages. It is so fast-paced and accessible and easy to read. It's light in tone, a little humorous, but very clever, very intelligent, kind of hard sci-fi. And I just got sucked back in. I read the second half of this one in basically one sitting. And then I'm like, oh, well, let me go back and just refresh myself completely and get the whole story. So I went back and read the first half of this one. So I did a full reread of this one, a little out of order. And I loved it the second time through. I think it's an easy 5 stars. I gave the first time 4.5 stars, but this one I just loved it. 5 stars. It reads like Andy Weir's Martian or Project Hail Mary or the Bobiverse books. If you like the tone of those, it's very similar in terms of its tone and atmosphere, having clever, cheeky protagonists, and it being more about kind of hard science fiction problem solving in space. And this series is about a human colony that's a fairly small colony on a faraway planet, and they're trying to survive because it's a fairly hostile place for humans to survive. And there's no real evil like human antagonists. It's more of a cozy science fiction read. So Mickey 7, fantastic. If you want a fun, interesting, but a clone story that still has some high emotional and character stakes, this one could be for you. Should be coming out on paperback soon, with the new book, Antimatter Blues, also coming out. And so I did this one on an audio arc, and the audiobook narrator was very engaging. He maybe went a little over the top with some of the side character voices for my taste, but I think a lot of people might love this audio narration. And the book itself was a very solid follow-up to Mickey 7. The first book had a flashback plot structure that you can't do again. You learn a lot about Mickey 7's previous incarnations and this past character, and a lot of world-building elements that were very surprising that you can't get again the same way. And so it's more of a straightforward kind of narrative structure that just happens in the present-day timeline. And it was good. For what it is, I think it was solid. I gave it 4 stars. But book 1 had such a cool kind of narrative structure to it. Almost like if Project Hail Mary had a sequel. It's like no matter what they did in the sequel, it probably couldn't live up to just the plotting and the way book 1 was done. So I kind of felt that way. But solid book 2 for Mickey 7. And this is by Edward Ashton, who's a fairly new author. And I cannot wait to keep this series going because I'm pretty attached to the characters, and I find the way Ashton writes very compelling, just like Dennis Taylor or Andy Weir. I love this kind of science fiction that's very accessible but very intelligent and to do around problem solving, so can't wait for more of those. Coming off of Antimatter Blues, I wasn't really in the mood, and The Expanse too, for more sci-fi, but I'd actually requested a bunch of arcs off NetGalley starting out there, and I didn't expect to get approved for a lot of them so quickly, and I got approved for Rubicon, which is by J.S. Dewis, the author of the Last Divide books, a kind of younger space opera author for tour. I realized I want to get my feedback ratio for NetGalley higher. It's supposed to be, they say, 80% or higher, and mine was sitting at like 33%. And so I just wanted to read Rubicon and get through that and start to get my feedback ratio up. And this one did not go great for me. I think I gave it a generous 3 stars. It was very similar to the reading experience of The Space Between Worlds by McKay Johnson, which I did last month and also didn't really love. And it's, for what it is, I think it does a fairly good job. But it is kind of sci-fi that is extremely character focused. The whole focus of the book is on the internal life of the single POV main character. And just like Space Between Worlds, that character is a female, kind of 20-something, who's kind of going through an identity crisis. They're depressed. They've had a lot of past trauma that they're trying to process and work through. And so you just get every single internal thought and emotion narrated to you. And then just like with Space Between Worlds, I thought the world building was very thin. The plotting kind of predictable and fairly basic. Some of the side characters felt like more like caricatures or very 2D. And this is not the kind of sci-fi that I really enjoy. And so it was okay. I did the audio arc for this one also, and the narrator Eunice Wong does a great job. But if you liked the Space Between Worlds, or just like that kind of internal character work, and we got a lot of this also in The Empire's Ruin, so I was just kind of tired out of this kind of story. But if you like that, then this could be a pretty good sort of entrance into adult science fiction or space opera for you, because it's very much not heavy on the kind of hard sci-fi details. It's very accessibly written. And there's an AI character in this that I really enjoyed, except for a lot of the book, the internal AI character, which is a trope, like from Cradle also, that I kind of really enjoy. And they had a great back and forth going. So Rubicon is actually the name of the AI assistant that the main character Adrian has. And unfortunately, this AI can get turned off by commanding officers, and they're only supposed to have it on during kind of military missions. And a lot of the book gets spent with this AI turned off. The best character, the best dynamic in the book was not even that present on the page. And I didn't think a lot of the character arcs were really earned either. And so it just didn't really land with me. I have the Last Divide books. I'm going to give them a try to see if I like that series better. But this one is pretty much a series DNF. I don't think I'm going to really want to continue with this one. After that read, and after doing a lot of sci-fi, I was just wanting some epic fantasy and just something that was maybe a little bit more subtle, just a little bit stronger overall in terms of its writing. And so I am dipping back into A Song of Ice and Fire. I am back again with George R. R. Martin with A Clash of Kings, Book 2. I'm just towards the beginning of that in the first 100 pages. Feels great to be back in. Just juggling so many different POVs so deftly. The beginning, the prologue was so good. Oh my god, just the atmosphere in that prologue and Dragonstone was so awesome. So yeah, I am going to be reading this for the foreseeable future. Something else on the horizon I'm excited for is to finally be getting back into the realm of the Elderlings. So I read the Farseer trilogy a couple years ago and definitely liked it. And so I want to read Liveship Traders soon. And next month, I'll be starting a read-along with Colin's Corner for A Ship of Magic, and we'll be doing a chat every month for 3 months as we go through the Liveship Traders. Colin's an awesome guy, great young YouTube channel, and yeah, I am excited to dig into this with him and go on more of that Robin Hobb journey. Alright, it's time for my book of the month. For February 2023, it is no contest. That is Tiamat's Wrath by James S.A. Corey, Ty Frank, and Daniel Abraham. What an incredible single book entry into one of my new favorite series. So that was an easy choice. Sometimes it's a little bit harder, but clear and away one of my favorite SFF books ever. So yeah, what do you think of any of these? If you've read them, are you excited for me to finally dig into the Liveship Traders? And yeah, tell me how your February went. I'll see you later.